I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, and like that goes into my why for Kiddie Kredit. It's just I feel that we need more entrepreneurs in our our city, our country, to be able to address the wealth gap. I was always that kid that had those ideas. I shoveled snow so I could make a little $20, and I built a computer from scratch so I could burn CDs and sell them to my friends. And I've always just valued hard work, and if I wasn't doing something in entrepreneurship, I was doing something in sales, because I feel that how hard you work in sales is a direct correlation to how much you can make. So that was really my why. It was like, how do we make more entrepreneurs?
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, creators, and disruptors who are fueling innovation in emerging markets across the country. I'm Tyler Kelly, super excited to be back with my co-host, Leanne Buchanan.
Hey, everybody.
And today's a really amazing day because we're here with Evan Leaphart of Kiddie Kredit. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, Evan, we're going to just jump right in here. And I'm really excited for everybody to hear a little bit of your story. We're going to get into what Kiddie Kredit does in a moment, but just start off by telling us, what are your superpowers? What are, your top superpowers?
That's a good question. Understanding people would probably be my best one. Pretty patient person. Years of therapy.
Therapy helps.
Yeah. When you start to understand yourself, you can understand people better. That would probably be my biggest one. I never really thought about what my superpowers are. I'm going to go home and think about them, though.
I love it. Now, talk to us about why you are passionate about Kiddie Kredit, and really what type of change are you trying to have in the world?
I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, and like that goes into my why for Kiddie Kredit. It's just I feel that we need more entrepreneurs in our city, our country, to be able to address the wealth gap. I was always that kid that had those ideas. I shoveled snow so I could make a little $20, and I built a computer from scratch so I could burn CDs and sell them to my friends. And I've always just valued hard work, and if I wasn't doing something in entrepreneurship, I was doing something in sales, because I feel that how hard you work in sales is a direct correlation to how much you can make. So that was really my why. It was like, how do we make more entrepreneurs?
Who inspired your entrepreneurial journey?
My mother.
Tell us about that.
My mom was a flight attendant for most of my childhood. She was a flight attendant for about 20 years, but always found ways to make ends meet outside of that. She had a gift basket business. She actually taught me how to measure dress shirts. So I would do dress shirts, and always had something going. So that really, I fueled that, and I was like, okay, now that I see what she's doing, I want to do those things. I want to make my mom proud. Definitely my mother.
So talk to me about why Kiddie Kredit.
Just with that same lens in mind, it was like, how do we make more entrepreneurs, and how do we do it in a fair way? When we look at the wealth gap, the people that have great business ideas just don't stay in certain income levels. They're all across the board. But if you don't have access to a friends and family round or anything to get those things off the ground, you may need to go a traditional route and get a bank loan or line of credit. But if you don't have good credit and you don't have good assets to begin with, you can't get that start. So it's like, we need to teach about credit before you even need access to it. And how do we do that in a way to where it's understood, not just one class in 7th grade, something that you instinctively understand. So Kiddie Kredit was essentially creating a parallel universe between solid foundational habits and then the mechanics of what a good credit score is. That was the why, right? And then we wanted to start at an early enough age to where we could eventually build out this ecosystem from beginning to end, to where people turn 18, they instinctively understand how these things work, and then maybe we're even able to issue their starting credit card product themselves eventually.
And what is a good age? What age do they start to get it?
It's a good question. I mean, we're figuring that out now, right? We found our sweet spot for activity in the app is between 8 and 12. So kids starting at 8 to 12, they understand that, okay, I do these chores on time, it's better for my score. I miss these chores, it's worse for my score. So now you're starting to create this parallel correlation between a missed payment. I've been doing this chore for a while, I see it's better for my score. As an adult, the longer you have a credit card, the better it is for your score. I get these reward points. I love them. My parent gave me some cool rewards that I can redeem. They're not all allowance-based. But if I ask for too much, it affects my score. So now I'm starting to learn about inquiries, right? So, the goal is as they start to get older, into the teen phase, we can start to be able to correlate those things to say, remember when you didn't make your bed that day? That's what'll happen if you miss a car payment. That's the mission of Kiddie Kredit in a nutshell.
So I'm curious, you mentioned, Evan, that sometimes entrepreneurs have trouble accessing capital. Mm-hmm. Maybe they may not be able to raise from friends and family. They may have to go to a bank. Can you tell us about your journey as an entrepreneur in funding your startup? I'm sure it costs money. So how have you been able to navigate that? What have some of the barriers been for you?
I mean, it's been tough. It's not as easy as people think. Like, we've been doing this for not a long time, but I mean, we founded in 2018 and just now is kind of like finding its way. But I bootstrapped it myself, part savings and part me doing what you really don't want to do, to be honest with you, maxing out credit cards, right? But I really believed in this product. I was like, I'll be fine. And then, got it to a point where a year later I was able to get small angel investment. And, just still being underfunded, it's very tough as a founder. Like, you're just, okay, we can do this now, and then we'll wait a couple months, and then we can do this. But we got to a point where we were able to do a crowdfunding campaign, which is something that wasn't available when I first thought of this idea. Like, Kiddie Kredit was a concept I've had in my head for like a decade. I owned the domain for years, just wasting money on GoDaddy, because I was like, one day I'm gonna build this app. Like, I don't know how. I had no idea how it was done. I was like, I'm gonna build this app. And then that was last year that we did the crowdfunding campaign. And then this year, we really started to make a lot of traction. Towards the end of last year, we partnered with Equifax, which was huge for us. And then people started to kind of take us a little more seriously by saying, okay, now we can kind of see how you're angling towards being a thought leader and teaching about credit. And then things started falling into place, in these past couple months for sure.
I'm curious about the Equifax partnership, because a lot of times startups and entrepreneurs are looking at generating revenue or trying to get funding only, and they overlook the power of partnerships. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that came to be, how you began to think about that as an opportunity to propel your business forward, and maybe something that you learned in trying to navigate with such a large organization as a partner?
Yeah. I think the best lesson I could say about it is never think something's too big. Like, it was like 4 a.m, and I looked at like some of our older pitch decks, and like our exit strategy was a relationship with a credit bureau. And I was like, how does that even begin? I was like, I don't even know. Like, let's just go on Equifax.com. And I went on the general inquiry box, and I just copy and pasted my executive summary. I was like, man, who knows? Probably not the smartest. I was like, I don't know, And then all of a sudden, it got forwarded to the president of Equifax Foundation. He was like, man, I love this. I've been here for over 10 years. I've never seen anything like this. So you never know, right? Like, that was the salesperson in me that was like not afraid to like just do a cold call. That was a digital cold call, but just reach out. So, and it's been going ever since. So the partnership's multifaceted, be a client and stuff that we're working through. But yeah, I would just say never think anything is too big, from like who is like investors in our project and people that I never thought would be a part of it, partners that you just never know. But if you just continue down the pathway, people will always appreciate hard work, in my belief.
So talk to me about your greatest challenge at this point. It's
2 components. So the product itself, right? Like, we understand we have something that people like, people, know is valuable. But it's like, what are our next steps towards engagement? What do we need to put in there that people are going to say, this is working? Not only do I love it, but I'm learning about credit as a parent. My kids are definitely learning about what gives them a good credit score, because they really want to find ways to get their reward points faster. That's challenge number 1. And, we're tackling some different features and things like that to really accomplish that. And then secondly, like our business model is not B2C, it's B2B2C. So we're not just mass marketing to parents. And we did that by design, right? If we really wanted to be intentional about who we're building this for, it's not necessarily an audience that should be paying $4.99 a month or $9.99 a month for anything else, right? Like probably shouldn't have Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus, but they do, right? So like we're like, how can we make it so it gets into the hands of the people we want it to be in, but do it in a way to where it's not hurting our bottom line. So we felt the B2B2C model does that. For one, we're charging an organization. Second, it's a secondary organizational push towards engagement. And then lastly, just from what we've seen in our studies is that it can be lower user acquisition costs. So it gives us a larger subset of users in the beginning, and then ultimately you want to become that B2C platform with mass adoption, but it's kind of our go-to-market strategy.
I want to talk for a moment about the users, because you mentioned something at the outset around the bigger why behind Kiddie Kredit. And we know when we look at the data that, Black and brown communities by and large are underbanked. They have lower than average access to credit. And, Black and brown entrepreneurs have real trouble even getting into the access to capital pipeline. So what are some of the ways that you think that Kiddie Kredit will shift the paradigm?
Yep.
10, 15, 20 years down the road?
I think we're really at the beginning of that study, right? And then we can kind of meet these worlds in the middle and say, look, we've been able to bring this subset of users that's been in our product for the past 10 years. Look at where their starting point is. The statistics around some of that stuff, it's glaring. There's 16% of American adults that are underbanked and 6% that are completely unbanked. And then in terms of credit challenged Americans, there's over 91 million, right? So credit is a real issue. What happens in the space of financial literacy, we look at it as like one big topic. Like school is not one topic. There's math, there's science, there's world history. So it's like credit deserves to have its own conversation. One thing that we looked at when we pulled up data, there's something that we're trying to do to really be able to build impact and boost credit scores on a citywide level. But we started to pull data from some of our poorest zip codes in Miami and the wealthiest. And what we found was for 18 to 30-year-olds, the average monthly income is not that different, but the credit score is. It's like over 100 points. So what does that mean? That's an entire lifetime of higher interest rates on auto loans, mortgages if you can even get one, or, and if you do have a great business idea, you can't get that business loan or line of credit. Now there's things like crowdfunding that make these things more accessible. But if your immediate network is individuals to where $100 investment is tough, $200, that can still be a challenge too. So, it's definitely going to be a long study. So we got to make sure that we're, collecting data, but careful about how we collect the data too.
I want to talk about data in a moment, but what have you learned about yourself in your journey as an entrepreneur?
That is a great question. My perseverance, because it's super easy to just quit and go back to work and like make more money and, but this is, when I look at it, I'm like, this was always the thing I've wanted to do. Even when I was an entrepreneur, it's like, man, if you could do any business, what would it be? It's like a Kiddie Kredit. So it's like you're actually here now. Like this is the one project you wanted to do. So like having that is like the why is super strong in this one. Where the other ones, it's like it makes money, but if it doesn't work, it's fine. This isn't fine if it doesn't work.
So Angela Duckworth, she defines grit as really the combination of passion and perseverance over time. Mm-hmm. So you definitely have the grit.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the vision. We know what you want to accomplish. What's that look like 5, 10, 15 years from now? How's the world different?
What we want to get to is a space to where people can have access to financial products based off of demonstration and knowledge, right? Not like a subset of data which has bias in it already. It's essentially like you want to be a lawyer, you can't just be one. You have to demonstrate your knowledge. You know this. And
all too well.
So it's like, but you've earned it at that point, right? Like you've passed that bar. So it's like, why not have that for financial products, right? So it's like we want to de-risk issuance through education, right? So like we have phases in how we get there. So Kiddie Kredit's kind of phase one in that journey for us. And we see that model has no geographical boundaries, in our opinion.
What's interesting about Kiddie Kredit as you're speaking, Evan, I'm really thinking about just how we think about knowledge and capability and understanding. And so to me, what Kiddie Kredit is really doing is elevating experience as your form of knowledge capital, right? In any other way, it's the standardized tests. Like, I'd love for you to talk about the biases, but these standardized measures that don't take into consideration some of the social, economic, and cultural and, systemic factors that go into our capacity. So I'd love for you to tell us, how do people and partners respond to this completely different framework, which is we're going to show you the experiences as an indicator of capacity versus traditional credit?
It's a good question. I think what we see is the conversation either falls on deaf ears or is incredibly interesting, right? So it's like I automatically know, like when I have investor conversations or something, it's like if credit's like, why credit? I'm like, okay, so you don't understand like the demographic we're doing this for and how we see this as probably like our best chance at addressing the economic challenges we face. So I look at it through the lens of that. I mean, in terms of what we're collecting, and in the conversations, it's a lot of it's still in its infancy, but we're trying to really uplift the importance of credit and make it be its own isolated component of financial literacy.
So, I've got 3 kids at different age, 11, 9, and 4. The 9-year-old and 11-year-old are ripe, to learn about financial education. Talk to me about the app itself and the experience for the children.
Yep. So a kid's gonna come into the app and they're gonna see chores that the parents set forth. Clean your room.
I like that.
And then they're gonna, like, if they did it, right, they'll say they did. If they didn't, say they won't. Even if they did, they'll probably say they did and then hope dad approves it. But then it's up to you, right? So you go into the app and you see the alerts. You're like, okay, I see what's your one of your kids' names?
Claire.
So let's say Claire, clean room. Okay, I see you did that. You can approve it, right? Yeah. And then if they didn't, then it affects their score. So then they see that, and now all of a sudden they're starting to get more reward points, which right now are called bamboo bucks, may change. And then they can use those to redeem rewards that you set forth, right? So one of the things that we do a little differently from some of our peers in this space is our rewards are monetary and non-monetary, right? Going back to who we built this for, there's an audience that doesn't pay allowance, one, because they simply don't believe in it. They believe that that's the roof over your head. That was
rent.
Yeah, exactly. You want allowance? All right, then contribute to the light bill. So there's that, and then there's an audience that just can't afford it, So we wanted to be able to make rewards as simple as it could be $10. It could be an hour outside with friends. So, then they redeem the reward. So it's relatively simple. Right now, it's essentially you do your chore, you get your score. From that, you earn rewards, which you can redeem to get different items that you, the parent, set forth.
And at your partner institutions, do you have somebody on site that can help the parents like install the app and show them how to work it and all that good stuff? Yes.
So I actually am doing a demo. So we have YMCA as a client. So I actually have to go to Atlanta next week and do a demo with the center that we're starting with there.
Okay.
It seems to me, to your point, Tyler, that you're also helping to get families who would not otherwise be exposed to digital literacy beyond the financial literacy, but getting used to using apps that are, educational, and also parents that may not have proficiency to actually learn how to do this. So there's so many benefits I could see from the app.
Thank you.
I like it, and it's that time.
It is
time for the lightning round.
Ooh, okay. So where do we start? Do we go deep, or we just start with something light?
It's up to you.
Okay. I'm gonna go deep.
Okay, let's do it.
What was the nicest thing someone has ever done for you?
Okay, and I gotta be quick. Sorry, it's a lightning round. Invested in me. My earliest investor was like, I don't. This may not work. Here you go.
Favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese.
What is the one book that changed the way you see the world?
Great question. There's two, but the first is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Seek to understand, then be understood.
Love it.
And then A New Earth by Eckhart
Eckhart
Tolle.
Tolle.
Yeah, that was a good one. Taught me about ego.
Oof. We could go all day about ego. Jeez.
Well, okay, so on that line, what's your greatest challenge as a individual?
I'll take that question and I'll go deep. I would say the biggest challenge is as a Black founder, I live every day trying to make sure that what I'm doing makes it easier for somebody that's taking the path behind me. So I try to be intentional about my conversations, relationships, partnerships, things of that nature. So just making sure that I'm doing things that leave the world a better place, especially for those that look like me.
There's an additional weight on your shoulders just because.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you feel loved?
Patience with me. It's very easy to just be dismissive of people, but like to understanding and like compassion makes me feel loved.
If you could do one thing over, what would it be?
I can't. I always say nothing because I'm a big believer in the butterfly effect. Like if I didn't go there that day,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met that person, and then like, you know what I mean. So I wouldn't change anything.
What is your greatest need in this moment?
Time. More time. Yeah.
It's a construct anyway, so.
Yeah, I know. maybe optimizing of time. Yeah.
Well, speaking of time, I think we're out of it.
Yeah. So Evan, tell us, how can people reach out? How can they, if they're a bank or something like that, how can they get in touch? How can they follow you? All that good stuff.
I am on social media platforms as @Evan Leaphart. It's Leaphart, or Kiddie Kredit. Just Kiddie Kredit, KIDDIE, credit KREDIT, or email evan@kiddiekredit.com.
This was a fun conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you.
No, thank you. This is dope.
Thank you for listening to Innovation City. If you like this episode, you can find more episodes at innovationcity.co or anywhere where you watch or listen to podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next week.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams